Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, back again. And this time around we're going to work on a Zebco XR20. This is a lower end reel that you would have found typically in the 1970s. The reel was made in Japan, and it's an entry-level reel, but it's got a lot of nice, neat features and functions to it. And right now, the problem is that it's very, difficult to turn. So my advice, if you see a reel like this at a flea market or garage sale or the like, and everything turns, but it's just very difficult to turn, check it out. Make sure that the bail fires and all that other stuff. But if it's just difficult to turn, buy it. Buy it at a reduced price. I don't know, $5, something like that maybe. But buy it, and you're going to find out that this reel can be restored to near original very quickly, simply with a little bit of oil and grease and cleanup. Now my guess is you're going to find one of two things when we open up this side case. The first will be that it'll be loaded down with dried grease that's gummy and acting as tar. Or the second one, there'll be no grease. It'll all have evaporated, and what you have is pure metal on metal, and that's causing this to turn very, very difficult. So we're going to take this apart. We're going to service it. We're going to show you how to restore this reel and how to get it back out there fishing again, giving it a second chance. So I like to start by removing the exterior pieces and parts. We'll do that by taking off the spool and the handle and the side plate. And as we do, I want to thank the first responders and essential personnel for everything it is that they have been doing during the pandemic to keep us safe and out of harm's way. I really do appreciate all of your efforts. You do make a difference each and every day, and I thank you for that. All right, we're going to take off the top of the spool. We can see this one's been laying around a long time now. There's a lot of dust and dirt on that spool adjuster knob here. It looks like we have a very small set of drag washers here. Sometimes when you open up a reel like this, you're going to find that the drag washers are pressed in the case. In this one, they are removable and can be serviced. We'll do that a little bit later. I'll just take that off. Very clean inside here. You'll notice as you open it up that there is no rotor nut here. That means that this spool attaches by a clip inside the reel. We'll show you that in a moment. But what I like to do on a reel like this, and this one looks particularly just dry, I like to take a penetrating oil. In this case, we'll just use a WD-40, but any brand of penetrating oil will do. And I just like to soak the movable parts on the bail. This one's a dead end here. It's nothing more than a piece of the bail wire bent inward. But look at how that just frees that right up. And tripped out from the outside. Yeah, that's all that one needed was oil. I'm going to suspect as we open this up, that'll be the case underneath here. You're just going to need some oil. So if you like working on fishing reels, if you think it's a neat little hobby, or if you're just interested in maintaining your own, then I would ask you to subscribe to this channel. You'll see all of the fishing reels that come into my shop for service. You'll learn how to do that service, how to keep them working. And to those that are like this, where it's very sluggish, well, you'll find out how to restore them and get them fishing again. You'll notice that the dog is clicking here. So what I want to do is I want to reverse that so that I take that anti-reverse dog out of play. You'll also notice we have a pretty good track here. It's dry and looks like it's just needs to be cleaned up in order to make this one everything it can be. There is a pin that holds this in. Remove that pin. I took that out but didn't show you. Remove that pin. Put that into a parts tray to hold them. I use a little plastic bottom of a milk jug. And now you should be able to pull this axle shaft up and out. And I can just see from this, there's just a lot of gum and dried grease on here. So I think we got both things here that I was guessing before. The first one I said was dried grease, and the second one I said is no grease. Well, I think what happened was you've got parts here that have no grease because all that grease migrated to a different position in the reel and dried there and caused the sluggishness. I just used 4-0 steel wool to just pull that off. Put that into the tray. Take a picture here. This is a very easy one to mess up. Take a picture here. Actually, you could have taken it before you pulled that pin, but notice the orientation on the pin is on the down side. It's real easy to turn it around this way, reinstall, and what's going to happen if you do that is that's going to bump the top gear when it comes to that side of the stroke. So take a picture, note the orientation of that oscillation block, crosswind block, oscillation slider, whatever your manufacturer calls it for your particular reel. Take that picture, clean up what little grease there is on there. I'm going to use a cotton swab just to clear out that channel, which is the important part of this. Get the grease out from behind. There's a little bit of grease inside here. And if you do the cleaning, that's generally what reel service is about, unless there's a broken piece. It's getting the old grease out and checking for any wear, excessive wear on the pieces and parts. And if there is a broken piece or part, simply replacing it if you can. A reel this age, it might be the end of the reel, but that's the way it goes. There is a horseshoe clip here that's holding this rotor on, so you want to remove that. I just use a little pick. You should be able to work from one side to the other until that clip comes up and out. Once that's out, that can go in the parts tray. And simply pulling up on the rotor now will get that done. Now, because there's no burring or anything underneath here, you might say, why do we remove it? Well, you can't get the main gear out without removing this. And also, you want to make sure that you don't have any line trapped underneath here or excessive dirt or grease or the like. It's all part of the service. All right, that main gear should slide out now. And notice that that dog fell out. Well, that's it's always important to notice that, to know how it goes, and to make sure that it gets reset. Even though we took that item and we put it in the off position, it somehow managed to find its way back. There is a spring here, and we're going to have to reset this spring as a result. You can see that spring here. So I'll show you how to do that as part of this service. I put the spring and the dog in here. I just had a reel come in. It was a Daiwa reel, and one of the things that happened was that a spring like that fell out of the case, and the owner of the reel couldn't quite figure that out. All right. Just going to wipe down the case, make sure that's clean. Next up then is to wipe down the main gear. And I go for the least abrasive approach, so if you can wipe off all the excess and old grease with a paper towel, well, that's my first choice. If you need to get a little bit more aggressive, then you might want to use something like the steel wool that I used. You can also use a brush. I'm going to use a brush here just to make sure all the teeth are clean, which they are. Okay, let's go back to that that spring. We want to load that in place. Notice that there's a hook on this spring. You got to get the orientation of the dog correct. This is going to be the orientation of the dog. Next up, you want to make sure that you can find the pressure point that's going to push this in, and it's going to be that way, like that. It's going to wrap over the top of the shoulder here. You might be able to see the spring is underneath. The stud for this is going to be holding both the spring and the dog, and this is going to go against the back of the case. So I'm going to hold the assembly like that. I'm going to load up the spring first so you can see it. That's the way the spring will set. Now I want to get my dog. And this is the way the anti-reverse dog is going to lay. So you want to come underneath and then over the stud, just like that. And that sets your dog. So that's why it kind of popped out. There's nothing holding it here. But what will happen now is, as the main gear holds it, it will push back in and rotate accordingly. Okay, once you've set that, put the handle on, Give it a test, make sure that it's working properly. And once you do that, we can pay our attention to the rotor then. So the rotor is clean. There's no grease or anything of any consequence there. You can see that there's a groove here. That's where that horseshoe clip is going to ride. And again, you want to make sure that that's free of dirt and debris in there, because if you trap it, it will be a problem. While I have the rotor off, I'm going to use a rod and reel cleaner. In this case, it's Penn's rod and reel cleaner. And just like any other, I'm not really partisan to any brand, but it does the job. And it's always easier to clean these rotors off the reel. Alright, so we've oiled the inside with a penetrating oil. That's not really a good lubricant. It'll evaporate pretty quickly. So what I like to do is put some fishing reel oil on there. I'm just going to put a drop into the slot there, even though that's not a very active slot, behind the bail arm and on the trip lever here. And the working it in like that will ensure that it's problem free for seasons to come. Just mopping up a little bit more here. Okay, before I go, there's a little bit more dirt on the inside of this case here. This is a good place to use it right here. Looks like we have something here. Maybe it's a piece of old paint or something. I like the kind of the stories that the reels tell. I have no idea what that is or how it got there, but probably somebody put it in a closet or something maybe, and maybe it bumped up against some paint. Maybe it hit the sidewall of a boat. Who knows? Always interesting. I like to leave it there. Some folks like to clean it up. That's at your discretion. All right, let's put some grease back onto the pinion gear that's attached to the rotor. So if you have a question on this reel or any reel in particular, if I can help with a particular problem, maybe you're working on a reel and you're a little bit stuck on something, leave it in the comment section. I'll try to answer that question for you if I know the answer. If I don't know the answer, I'll try and point you to someone who may know the answer. And the best way to do that is by leaving it in the comments section. There's a lot of people who will try and call on that business card number, and quite honestly, if I'm working on reels or doing videos, I can't answer that phone, and sometimes you'll get more delayed there. Alright, I just need to rotate this, make sure that I have this down so that I can get the slot there for the clip, and we can work that clip in just like that. The case is going to hold that clip in, just if you're wondering. Alright, we can go ahead and cycle through on this. You want to move the stud down. With the stud down, go and get the oscillation gear from your parts tray. Go ahead and grab the brush and get some grease inside. I use a brush. Whatever you like to put it on with. Time to time I'll put it on with a screwdriver blade. Really doesn't matter too much. Just make sure that you get a nice even coating on there. When you go for the axle shaft, now don't put a lot on there. You remember that we had a little bit of an issue with that being sludged up when we took it out. And then just install it through. Find the hole in the axle shaft. Align it with the pinhole in the crosswind block. And get your pin out of the parts tray. Just work it in. It's got to go all the way through. Don't leave it proud. We can grab the case. So we can clean the case. We're going to do that right now. Case screw. And we'll go up top. We'll take a look at what kind of drag washers may or may not be in this thing. There you go. I had the case misaligned. Alright, that set is done. I'm going to use the same thing. I'm just going to use that kitchen scrubby with that cleaner on it just to get the dust and dirt off of here. Both sides, top and bottom. So this reel is probably on the lower end of the reels sold in a day. It's a survivor, and there's no reason why you can't go fishing again. Now it's Not going to have a lot of ball bearings. It has none. That's not necessarily a problem. Good design trumps poor design with lots of ball bearings in it. And this one is not going to be catching the heavier fish. Maybe if you get a heavier fish, it might not be the easiest one to work in reeling, but it doesn't mean it's not going to land it. And Zebco is probably the brand that a lot of folks grew up fishing. This was a transition reel after you got out of the Zebco closed face reels. You moved on to maybe a spinning reel. Maybe you just kept fishing with those closed face reels all along. We have a felt washer here. That's not unusual. You just have to be careful. You want to make sure that it comes out in one piece. And felt washers get oiled and saturate it with the oil. You saw that this one kind of dried down. And what happens when it dries down is that the drying kind of makes it inoperable. It'll seize. It'll either kind of work its way to seating with the inner spool, or it'll work to seat with this metal washer here. In either case, it won't slip. And if it doesn't slip, it's a very ineffective drag. So, not that you're going to be using a lot of drag with this reel. Anyway, just cleaned up the dirt on the top of that. We're going to put that back in. Take that little clip. There's a groove inside the spool. Make sure that that seats inside the groove. Just like that. Just using this little pick to make sure it's in there. There we go, that's in. Back onto the shaft then. One more piece to clean here. It's an adjuster knob. And so this has got years of dust sitting in there, so I imagine when this one came to the yard sale or garage sale or flea market or wherever it was, that it hadn't been used in quite some time. That's okay, it'll get a second chance now. So finally, if you have a reel that you'd like serviced and you're not up for doing it yourself, well, if you send me a note, again, use the email on the business card. If you send me a note, I'll be happy to provide you with the service information and where to send those reels. Okay, nothing more than to give this one a test. It looks beautiful. It's cleaned up nicely. All those years of dust and debris have gone. Let's give it a run. We've got to reset that. Remember, we had that in the off position. There you go. Very nice. The Zebco XR20. Let's give it a test to make sure that bail fires. It does. And that's all you can ask from a reel like this. Just get it cleaned, get it oiled and lubed, make sure all the pieces and parts are working right, and this reel can go fishing again, have another second chance. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Again, if you're a first responder, thank you. For everybody, please stay safe, stay well, and stay watching. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.